I'm going to go ahead and get folks checked in. So see that we have a Wayne. Wayne, if you're with us and can hear me, if you could unmute. Okay. Well, Wayne, you there?
Wayne can hear you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Hi,
Thank you.
Wayne, if you could give me your full name and tell me who you're representing here today.
Wayne Teej. I'm a commercial real estate consultant, and I've been working with Jason Phillips on this project, Western Hills Window.
Okay. Western Hills Window, who is the owner of the property?
Owner of the property and the
Current.
applicant.
Okay. All right. And could you spell your last name for me?
Tiedge. Tiedge.
Tieged.
Tiedge.
Okay. Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Gonna go ahead. I'm gonna ask everyone the same questions here. So if you intend on providing testimony here today, if you could go ahead and answer the same questions as I go through, just your full name and who you're representing here today. I see that we have a David. Is there David here?
David Lorei, that's Lorei. I'm with Abercrombie and Associates. We are the site civil on the project, working with the owner.
Okay. And Mr. Lorei, do you plan on providing any testimony here today?
If asked questions, yes.
Okay, great. If and when that time comes, I'll ask that you activate your camera at that time. I see we have Jim Kaiser. Jim?
Yes,
Are you with us?
with PCA Architecture, architect for the project for the owner.
Okay, great, thank you. Same note as with Mr. Lorei, if and when you intend on providing testimony, we'll need to have your camera activated. Ali Addison?
That'll be an issue because I don't have a camera on my computer.
Okay, Mr. Kaiser, do you have a phone that you can sign in from or a different computer with a camera?
I'll sign it. I'll try to sign my phone.
Okay, great. All right, I see we have Ali Addison.
Hi, I'm also with PCA Architecture.
Okay, great.
I think Jim is going to be providing the testimony, but I'm just here to observe and help if I need to.
Okay, great. Let's see, we have someone who's joining us from an iPhone who's attempting to connect to audio now. Sir, on the iPhone, if you could unmute. To the gentleman with the Western Hills shirt. Yeah.
Yes.
Could you give me your name and
it is Jason Phillips with Western Hills Window Company.
Okay. All right. Welcome. Okay, on the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here today?
On my end?
Yeah.
I
Western
believe
Hills is the owner of the property, or
correct.
JLTM Investments?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
I
Are you
believe-
expecting anyone else to join us that's not here already?
Just Jim Kaiser from PCA Architectural.
Okay, great. I think he is here, but he's going to try and join by his phone so that he can provide some testimony. We also have Trey Sheldon, who's a plans examiner here in the city. Welcome, Trey.
David?
Okay, I need to read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the May 24th, 2023 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner. I'll preside over the hearing today. The case before us is case number ZH20230060. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll hear from the zoning plans examiner on this case. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. For our purposes here today, it seems like we have a number of individuals that are here either as the owner or the applicant or someone who is going to advocate for the zoning request. And so you all can orient this presentation however you would like. One of you can speak, all of you can speak. I need to hear some background on this project, why it's happening, what the plans are, what the requested relief is, and then why you think it's appropriate for me to grant the requested relief. And again, one or all of you could speak in whichever order you'd like. It's really completely up to you. I'll then go to Trey. Trey can provide any testimony in addition to a staff report. Allow you to respond to anything Trey has said or any other comments during the hearing. I'll have some questions along the way. I'll allow you to make any closing statements, and then we'll wrap it up. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents, which is generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present at this hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties with Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly. But to the extent there's some a defect in the tech that prevents us from meaningfully going forward, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comment, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing at this hearing today, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if you know that that's you, I'd like to collectively do that now. So if that's you, if you could take yourself off of mute, I need everyone to raise their right hand, and I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Kaiser, looks like you're joining us from your phone. If you could unmute.
Okay.
Great.
Got me?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
And your response to the oath was what?
I do.
Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation?
Jason, you want me to give the background of the project and go from there?
I mean, you can or I can. It doesn't matter. I mean, I can speak on behalf of that. The whole reasoning of this expansion on the project is we've outgrown our space here, and we've been a staple Western Hills area for over 60 years. And now we need, with the neighborhood declining, we need more space to get our vehicles in, space to have a gate that would actually shut to where people aren't throwing stuff in the dumpsters and stuff like that. Plus, the biggest thing is it's going to give an opportunity to get all of our deliveries now off the street, where before it would block the street completely when we would have delivery 2 to 4 times a week.
So Jason, can I stop you there and just back up a little bit? Can you tell me about what's on the property, what is the business, and what the proposal is in terms of expansion?
This is a window company. We have a dock that faces the overlook streets. We have a West 8th address though. We operate, Monday through Friday, Saturday's optional. We've got about 10 employees here. We've got a two dock bay, which with the expansion will give us a 3rd dock bay. Nowhere on this premises do we have anywhere to keep vehicles for safety or anything like that. We mainly sell windows and doors here.
Okay, great. And so what would you like to do to change the property?
We've got a house on a Overlook Avenue that's 729. That will be taken down, brought to street level. Then there'll be a garage erected that's going to be roughly 32 by 80 feet long. That will be a place for overstock. If we need to park a vehicle in there, we can. And then the house that's 4527 on Overlook will be completely taken down, brought to street level. That will now become a concrete courtyard with a slide gate. That will give us an opportunity for semis to back in off the road and back up to a proper height dock for actual trucks.
And that what was the address of the last one you said?
4527
Overlook?
West
Or
8th.
West 8th. Got it. Just trying to get oriented here. I'm looking over the map. 4527. Where is that in relation to the corner of 8th and Overlook?
It's directly behind our business. So if you're heading west, it's the first house that sits up.
Got it. Okay.
And then on Overlook, the first house behind the dock. So those two have to be brought down to street level then.
Gotcha. So they'll both be demolished.
Correct.
And there will be what's going in at those locations exactly?
729 Overlook will be a 32 by 80 foot garage with two doors, enough to get some vehicles in and overstock. And then on the property of 4527 will be an expansion off the back of our dock. That will be roughly 50 by 30 feet. And it'll have an actual truck height dock that will allow semis to actually back up, get into a concrete courtyard, and be completely off the street. Where it is now, when a semi backs up to our dock, which is on the Overlook side, it completely blocks Overlook to where cars have to turn around and go the other way.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Phillips, for the background on that. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think I covered everything pretty thorough.
Okay, great. Would anyone like to tell me more about the specific relief and why it's appropriate for this property in this district?
David, I'd like to say that I've been working with Jason for quite some time. We've looked at options. We've looked at expanding on the existing site. We've looked at moving to other sites. There's some benefits to, if today's meeting is successful, there's some substantial benefits to staying where they are. But the option is obviously, if we can't expand on this site, then we've got to look at, he's got to expand his business. He's got a very successful business. He's a young man. He's got many years to go. So one way or the other, we need to have an expansion here, and we're hoping this works out from your perspective.
Gotcha. All right. So, can anyone talk about neighborhood compatibility? I mean, it looks like this is, obviously very close to a lot of residential and a commercial neighborhood, which actually is what is requiring a lot of this relief with the transparency and things like that. Why is this project with additional storage and semi trucks appropriate for a commercial and residential area? How does it fit in?
As of right now, like anytime a truck pulls up to the intersection there, it has to back down, overlook, and come in diagonal to our dock. Basically, that, back in the days, we didn't have 53-foot trucks coming in there. It was just a box truck that would back in, which they were completely off the road. So we've had some issues before with, the cops stating that we can't block a road, but we don't have any other way of getting deliveries unless they come in diagonal and turn the truck at the last minutes. The other part of getting indoor storage is just recently we've had the converters cut off all of our vehicles here. And so it cost me a couple thousands of dollars just to get them all replaced. So for security reasons, we need to start storing everything inside. Instead of just up and leaving, I would like to stay here and try to work with the neighborhood and stay here as long as I can.
One quick comment, I believe, and Jason, please confirm, but I believe he met with the neighborhood community council and received their blessing for this expansion, if it's possible.
Correct.
Gotcha. And who's the neighborhood council? Is that West Price Hill
Yes.
Neighborhood Council?
Yep.
And did you attend a meeting? I'm sorry, did they submit a letter or anything?
That should have.
Formally addressing this?
Yes.
Just looking through the application too. Great. Is
David, I think they provided that letter because Jason had to go through a zone change for the overlook property. So I believe that letter was provided with that application for the zone change, which was approved a month or so ago.
Okay, great. Okay, so that letter was provided to, would that be to planning then? Trey, can you weigh in on this at all? To the planning department? I don't see it in the application materials, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So where could I find that letter?
It may be that Jesse Urbancic has it. I wasn't aware of that. This did go to Planning Commission because the property at 729 Overlook was at the time zoned along with the residential district. It was a little bit of a kind of odd situation because it was the only one of those properties that didn't kind of line up and on a straight line with the commercial strip. So they obtained a zone change to allow that property to be converted to the commercial district.
Gotcha. And that already went through Planning Commission?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know when it went through Planning Commission?
Would have been, I guess, a month or two ago, a couple months ago.
Okay. And so they voted to approve the zone change.
That's correct. It's already reflected on Cages. If you were to look at the map overlay, you would see that parcel is now part of the commercial district.
Got it. Okay. And were these plans for demolition and expansion a part of that application that went through Planning Commission?
Yes, it was understood that they would do that, but they needed zoning with because it wasn't it didn't go further for like a subdivision or anything. They're going to simply consolidate these lots, which, as you know, doesn't require any Planning Commission approval. That's something the county handles. So they ended up coming through for this associated relief here.
Okay.
They had also come in through the previous hearing, like pre-COVID, they had come through with expansion plans just for the big loading dock, just for the loading dock off of West 8, and not for the additional space to the south, the garage, to enable their vehicles to be safely stowed. But at that point, I would note that there was going to be zero lot line with the residential, the property that they acquired to the south. That's now commercial. That was a residential thing. They had not acquired it, I don't think, at the time. The owner can speak to that, I suppose. But anyhow, the point is that it was going to have a zero lot line. There was going to be absolutely no buffer yard whatsoever. Whereas now they've at least got 11 and a half or so feet of buffer yard and trees and a screen fence and so on. So it was before the previous hearing approved it with zero buffer.
Okay. Anyone else from the applicant owner side or the PCA side here would like to tell me in terms of why this request is appropriate. I mean, okay. I mean, can you talk more about the buffer? Can anyone talk more about the buffer? You know, obviously there's quite a bit of relief here requested, and I think most of it is related to trying to, or at least some of it's related to trying to protect sort of some quiet enjoyment of the residential nearby. Can anyone talk
It's
about
David.
mitigation of any adverse effects?
So we are in the buffer zone providing a 6-foot high privacy fence in addition to landscaping. And the landscaping that we are proposing was recommended by, I believe it was from Trey, in compliance with the zoning requirements. Without the reduction in the buffer zone, that portion of the addition just simply isn't usable. It gets to be too narrow of a structure if we provide a full 25-foot buffer zone. So that's the reason for the request on the reduction in that width. So again, this compromise, we're going to provide both a fence and landscaping.
Okay. All right. Trey, anything you wanted to add in addition to your staff report?
I think Mr. Teach explained some of it, which is that, you know, they simply, if they're going to expand, they have no alternative to do this, or else to, you know, sell the property and relocate elsewhere on a larger lot. I would note that this was the loading dock portion at least was previously approved. I realize each of these hearings is de novo, but both then and now, the zoning staff looked at this as actually sort of a reduced impact upon the residential neighborhood. As the owner indicated, there was often the trucks having to back up just literally shutting down Overlook Avenue, and a semi backing up onto there. And it would also impact the traffic as it backed up right on West 8th Street. So somebody would, you know, presumably have to go out and, you know, stop traffic or whatnot. Now that would still have to happen here, but now they can take hours unloading if they want on the front side of the building. That is the north side. The truck can back right up to a raised loading dock, so they don't have to have equipment coming out or whatever unloaded. Basically, it'll facilitate the loading process and make it much quicker, and it'll be off street because they'll be able to load with pallets and so on directly onto the loading dock, which is elevated rather than having to unload stuff from a higher truck, drop it down, put it inside the building and whatnot. So I think that it actually will somewhat reduce the impact on the as far as those deliveries and so on, reduce the impact on the residential neighborhood. As far as the other relief, I mean, they've been in this business for quite some time. They do have some transparency with respect to the showroom. There are two parts to this. If you were looking for windows or something, you could come into this business. This is from what I understand from communicating with the architecture firm, that you could come in and look at a showroom showing different kinds of windows and so on that you might select to have your house, you know, windows replaced or whatnot. There is transparency there, but there seems to be, given the nature of what they need here, transparency would be kind of absurd. I mean, we're talking about a loading dock and 2 garage bays. Having any of those built out to the lot line, it's just impractical. I mean, unreasonable and impractical. It's not going to serve the purposes for which they're trying to do it. Having that windows, for example, for a loading dock, it makes no sense. And people wouldn't want to view what they have in there anyhow, aside from the showroom, right? But they're not going to, you know, want to view, you know, vans or trucks and a bunch of merchandise, you know, a bunch of windows and doors stocked in there. It's, you know, kind of like small warehousing capacity for them to go do installations. So from that standpoint alone, it's just highly impractical to you know, to meet these standards that you would if this was a coffee shop or, you know what I mean, some other kind of commercial use in this district.
Okay.
I guess the only other things I'd note, I believe that the so-called house to the right, it was a kind of mixed use. I had that from the previous zoning case. My colleague Doug Allen had looked at that a little bit, and the auditor's office has it as mixed use. So, whereas I believe the house directly behind this that is on Overlook was indeed a residence. Trying to think if there's any. It is important to note they're going to put a fairly comparatively attractive fencing up along all surrounding that front loading area. So they need a relief as to the height for that fence. They did request that also in the previous hearing, and it was approved. It's going to be of the type of kind of aluminum picket, black aluminum picket, decorative. It's typically decorative fencing with the spear tops, and that will go along there, as opposed to say chain link or something like that. That will serve their purposes of keeping the things secure, rather than coming in for relief for like chain link and barbed wire or something that's not even permitted. So they are putting that fencing up, and I've talked with Mr. Kaiser, and the proposed dumpster back here. From what I understand from the applicant, you can look at his in the application materials. His letter explains it, but because when they remove windows and so on from the house, like if they were to come to your house and replace your windows, the old windows have to be put someplace, and they to dump those things, they needed a larger dumpster. Basically, Rumpke, whoever their provider is, was requiring them to have a rolling dumpster, and so they're going to have that. It is in front, but they will provide a screen fence around it, so you won't see it from the sidewalk. And also, I would note it's about 50 to 60 feet back from the frontage, and of course, so also be the aforementioned picket fence, the aluminum picket along the frontage there. So there was also relief to not have landscaping around dumpster, but that's again something that's completely like unreasonable and impractical in this current setting. If you're throwing broken windows into a dumpster, you're not going to surround it with those areas. It just makes no sense. It would in the context of having it, again, if this was a restaurant or something and members of the public were parking in the parking lot, yeah, we'd probably enforce that, but for zoning and hold them to that standard. But here, completely surrounded with fence and screening a dumpster, it just makes no practical sense.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. All right. Would anyone like to respond to anything that Wes provided, or add any other comments? Okay. Anything in closing or otherwise, or anything at all? Okay. As I stated at the beginning of the hearing, I will have decision out within 2 weeks. How I do that is I have to write up a formal written decision. That decision I will usually put into a PDF and email it to everyone in the hearing here, really just so you all receive that really just moments after it's complete. I do that as soon as I finish it. Once you have that, if the application is approved, Trey can approve the permitting on his end, and you all can move forward. Any questions about the process? Okay.
I do have one comment, David, which is that Mr. Kaiser, some of the things that you and I discussed about, for example, the screening around the dumpster and some of the areas that are depicted as 3 feet wide around the parking area, like along West 8th and along up in the corner there, you'll need to show that as landscaped, kind of like you did with the buffer yard on the architectural site plan. So when you come in for the permits, you haven't come in for permitting yet, but when you do, I'll need that site plan to reflect those things. Okay.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If anyone has any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me directly, or if you'd like an update on the decision, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to provide those updates or answer any questions.